One of my earliest memories, the moment when my mother received a phone call from the home for elderly people where my grandmother has been living, and that she died. And in this moment I was dancing in the living room. We had like a record player in the living room, and like a big living room with a lot of space, and my mother had vinyl discs that we put on every now and then, and I was just dancing in a moment, and then she received a phone call and they told her that her mother, my grandmother, just died. And in this moment she said, "Valerie, lower down the music, your grandmother just died." And I said, "No, I'm dancing now." And I was like totally in the emotion of the music. And my mother later on told me, you were a child, so I assume you did not get the situation in this moment. You were just too small. And I told her, no, I understood it, but I felt it's now more important than ever to keep on dancing and to keep the movement. And I was like transforming this situation in this moment. And it reminded me of a quote from Pina Bausch, the German choreographer, that is a huge inspiration for me. She said, "Dance, dance, otherwise we're lost." I was growing up with my mother alone, so she was a single mom raising me. And before me, my mother had two other children, my sisters, but they moved away from Vienna before I was born. Or I had a very short period with one of my sisters when I was born, when she was still there, and then she moved to Canada. My sisters were born in Canada.
So you were very close with your mom?
I am.
Still are?
I still am, yeah. We still talk regularly, and she's also like my closest friend. Like we share very openly with one another. We have a very loving relationship I'm very grateful for. Well, when I was born, my father was still in Vienna. My parents were not married. They were not in a serious relationship. They had like kind of a love affair, you can say. And they met at work, and I was not planned. So my father was diagnosed that he could not have any children. This is why he adopted 3 children with his first wife before I came. And then my mother surprisingly got pregnant. And as they were not in a serious relationship, like my dad was not very present, and I got like different stories of what he says and what my mother says about this period. And then like after 2 years, he went back to the US. So he's American. And then we were without contact for 22 years. And I was growing up not knowing if I would ever meet him or not. It was tough when I was growing up. Also, I felt like man or the male gender is something very mysterious to me. Like I did not have this experience that I went, to the forest with my dad and he would show me like how to make a fire, like all these kind of things. I never had that. But on the other hand, like growing up with my mom alone was normal. So it felt okay. I did not feel like I was lacking something, but then I felt with my relationships to other men or boys in my age, it was like kind of the mysterious gender. And I was growing up not knowing if I would ever meet my dad or not, because my mom had no contact and he did not contact me. So it was like the big mystery. Yeah, like a cloud. Once I was drawing my family on a picture, and my father was represented by a cloud with a big question mark in it. more relaxed now about it because I made my inner peace with my story. But back then I suffered also from it because I felt abandoned. I connected with this moment of how can a father have a little baby and decide to disappear and just leave the baby behind. It's something that I could not understand, and that like it was like a pain that was deep inside of me that sometimes would open and surround me and bring me into tears and pain, and then in the other moments I would close it and leave it on the side and just continue living.
So you had a lot of questions for your father?
Many questions, and I was also able to ask them when I finally met him.
And then what happened?
Well, he wrote me a letter, or actually he did not write a letter himself, but he wrote the letter as if he was my other half sister. So in the name of April, he wrote, "Hi, your dad is traveling to Europe. He would like to meet you for a coffee." And I was like, what? After 22 years, you're coming into my life and you just want to have a cup of coffee, say hi and go. Like, I'm not doing that. So I said, so my answer was, yes, okay, we can meet, but I want to do it properly and I need more time. Like, cup of coffee seems like ridiculous. What a ridiculous idea, I thought. And then after all, he invited me to come to the US, to North Carolina. And then I met him when he picked me up at the airport.
Okay. And then how was that?
Weird. And it was like a grown-up man, a stranger, a complete stranger, standing with a sign that said Valerie. And like, oh, this is your father. Oh, hello, nice to meet you. It was really weird. And then I remember on the way when we were driving from the airport to his home, he was telling me how he was teaching how to park to April, like my half sister, and just telling stories. And my father is a person who talks a lot, but I feel like he talks a lot, but lots of things on a more superficial level, but really like kind of avoiding to go into the deeper stuff. And I sensed that from the very first moment. So it was like he was there now with me finally, but I could not really get into the connection.
It was distance.
Hmm.
Tell me about your half sisters. How was the relationship with them?
From my mother.
Yes?
Mm-hmm. So I have two half sisters, Sandra and Natalie. And my older sister is Sandra, and she was always maintaining the contact in a very caring and loving way with me. So we wrote letters to each other, and when I was very young, she would record audio cassettes and send them via email. So this was like pre-WhatsApp audios. We had like real physical audio cassettes that we would send, and then we would hit the play button on the record player, sitting with my mom at the desk in the living room and listen to what she tells us about her life, and also asking some questions. And it was a very sweet way of communicating. And we had letters, then later we had emails, and also we had phone calls. And the phone calls were always very long. And I remember each year for Christmas, we had long family phone calls. So we had the ceremony, we had dinner, and then we were just my mom talking to the one sister to the other sister, and me talking one sister to the other. We had like many hours of phone calls always. And also I remember that my sister was my mentor. She was like always my advice giver in any kind of life circumstances. and I could always come to her. And even if I would call her spontaneously, she would be there for me. So I have a very special relationship with her, with Sandra. And then the other sister, the relationship was very marked in the beginning. When I was born, she was still in Vienna just for some time, and she was still very close to my mom. And then I kind of kicked her away from this position, because a baby needs a lot of time and caregiving, and my mother could not be as present with her as she has been before that. And then I was there, I was a baby, and my other sister became like a rebel. She went out to the disco and coming home way later than she's supposed to. And until today, like underneath in our relationship, there's still this friction, unfortunately. So we don't have a lot of contact, but I feel it's getting a bit lighter the last year, also because the three of us, we organized a really beautiful birthday surprise for our mom for her 80th birthday that she just had in September. And yeah, like collaborating and brainstorming and making it a beautiful day with the forces of the three sisters, and I think it was a good experience for us. I like very much the feeling of sisterhood, not only with my own sisters, but also like between friends. This feeling of you can count on each other, you have each other's back, you emphasize with the other person, and you go through laughter, through pain together.
You share the dramas,
yeah,
and the laughters.
Yeah, and the silliness too, which is very important.
Yeah. Tell me something about you as in your childhood, how you were at school.
At school, I was always the last. When people would leave the classroom, I was like, oh, I have, this book, and then my pen was over there, and people were already running out. And then I always liked to extend the way home, so not just walk straight home, but maybe play hide and seek behind the trees with my friends, and just a joyful way of expanding time and delay.
You were a dreamy child.
A dreamy child, yeah. And I was very much an explorer. I always liked, when there was a new place, I liked to explore each corner and run away and look. And my mother once told me a story that I don't remember. But she said, once we were on holiday and we were visiting a cave, and I said, it's so boring, I'm going to wait outside. I was maybe like 8 years old, and then her tour was over and she came to the entrance and I was gone, and she was like, oh my god, where's my child? And she had like almost a nervous breakdown. And this happened a lot to my mom, these kind of situations, because I was somewhere. And then I was coming, riding on a horse with a man behind me. Tick, 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 tick. I said, hi mom, here I am. And somehow I found a man with a horse and I've been riding with him, and I came back to the cave. So it's a typical Valerie story.
And how were your results at school? Did you like to learn?
I was very good at school. It was easy for me. I did not learn a lot, and had good results, so fortunately. And I was also mobbed for that. So I was an outsider at a gymnasium in my class, because the intelligent ones, the smart ones, often like get like excluded by the class. So it was really tough for me. The time in gymnasium, I was an outsider in my class, and I suffered a lot from it. And actually music also helped me a lot through that time. When I went home and I cried a lot and I felt like the loneliest girl in the world, I would always listen to Jagged Little Pill by Alanis Morissette. And this was like really my pill, you know, my healing work. That way somebody understands me. And also my other anchor that saved me were the arts. I was writing poetry, I was in the theater group, and I was in the dancing group in my school. So in these groups I had other peers from other classes which were not my class. And in my own class, in the break, when everybody would gather, I would sit in a corner and write my poetry about how lost I am in the world. It's like, I know nobody understands me. So I was also a bit dramatic as a teenager. And I had like my own corners that were very related to the arts. And they nourished me a lot. I studied at the University of Vienna Theatre, Film and Media Sciences. So I was mainly interested in theatre, and well, the film and media comes in a package with that.
Okay, tell me something about that. How did you experience that period?
Super beautiful, because finally, when you study at university, you can choose the subjects that you're most interested in, and you can also make friends with the people who resonate with you. And I formed some really beautiful friendships at university that are lasting until today. Yeah, I chose many subjects that were practical. I was also working as a tutor of one of the professors, so I was also leading students groups, tutoring, when we had the lectures in the Audimax, giving some introductions. I was also writing a script, and it was a really interesting time. And in this time I also met David Mayan, who is a theater director working with authentic life stories, who has really profoundly inspired me. I think what I most enjoyed were like practical workshops where I would participate, and we would work with acting, with speaking, also with dancing and moving and physical expression. And we were really creating. So I always loved more the projects where we would create rather than work with a text that is already written. And I adapted this idea for my own theater work after that. So I never took like a drama by Shakespeare, but I would always like choose a content, a topic, and then I would dive into the topic with the people I work with. One project I'm the most proud of is called Wütende Fäuste, sprechende Hände. In English it translates to angry fists, talking hands. And it's a project that has been funded by the government, the Cultural Ministry of Vienna, for projects, artistic projects that are dealing with violence and trying to prevent violence. And we did this at the school with teenagers. I was working with 19 teenagers for a whole year. They were between 12 and 15 years old. And we were working like on the topic, what makes you angry? How are you dealing with conflict? What are the conflicts that you have in your life. How did you deal with it up until now, and what are other solutions, and also giving them the opportunity to have a stage and to be really enraged and express everything that's inside of them. So I was basically going to the rehearsal saying, okay, this is your space. You have 5 shows and you will have an audience that listens to you. They have to shut up and listen. They sit in the dark and it's your moment. So everything you want to transmit, I will help you to put it into a form. And it was such a beautiful work, because the kids, they were really like going on a self-discovery. They were developing their personalities. They were inventing characters. They were addressing social and political topics that really matter to them. And I was so proud of them.
Yeah. And how did it affect you? What did you learn of that project for yourself?
Well, I learned that the arts are really a way of healing and personal transformation. So I also learned about myself that I have the ability to create spaces where people feel relaxed enough and feel like there is an ambience of trust, so that allows them to open and to be really themselves, and then really like look for the essence. And this is what I'm very interested in.
Maybe that's a red thread through your life.
That's totally a red thread. So this is also like, the thing with the theater project was that everything was leading to a product. So at a certain point we needed to present a piece in front of an audience. It was like driving us. It was like the motor, the motivation. And then I was traveling for 1 year around the world, and I discovered new forms, and I was at festivals and retreats, and we were also working with the body, with the voice, with talking, sometimes even with acting, but without the idea of I need to present something in front of an audience at some point. This was like out of the game. And then I felt like, wow, it's really actually the process I'm interested in. I'm not so interested in the result, which at this moment was perfect, like it was, but really like I want to shift my focus from the product to the process. Yeah, you need to provide safety, and you need to really listen to the people. Like you need to understand who they are, where they are at, and then also offer them tools and strategies or exercises or dances that really touch what they are dealing with at the current moment. So as a facilitator, it's important that you do your trainings, your educations, you have your music, you have your exercises. Also before, when I was a theater director, I was working a lot with improv theater, improvisation, also did a little bit of nonviolent communication. So really to observe and say, okay, I want to give you this tool or this color to draw with, so now take it and see what comes up in your process.
Well, it's more important for you to study the behavior of people or to participate in their social and emotional process and being a part of that?
Well, the action and the diving into it is, I think, always more important than just the observation. I think as a facilitator you need to do both, like you need to be in and out. When I facilitate biodanza, I need to observe from outside what's happening in the group. And then also I need to go in, I need to dance, I need to feel, I need to look into the eyes of the people and feel them and be with them. After I finished university, I did a European voluntary service in Italy, in Perugia, for 1 year. So I was finishing university and I took the train to Perugia. And I was working with also with teenagers, with theater, with film for a whole year. And I just visited them. Recently on this tour, we did not see each other for 17 years and said hi again. It was really, really lovely. And then I came back to Vienna. I was founding my own theater company, like performance, contemporary theater, called Kunstspiel. I did many different artistic projects. Many of them received funding and were shown at festivals. And also I was working for different theaters, working with public relations. I also worked as a journalist in the radio and also for a magazine called Falter, which is a very cultural, political magazine. So I was also going a lot to the theater, writing about other artists' work and communicating them to an audience. So it was, and I also did an education in drama writing and in contemporary dance after I finished university. So I continued with training and education, always investing into my artistic profile.
Yeah, a lot of exploring things.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. But finally, you choose for dance. Several varieties of dance. Tango, biodanza, and also tantra, not to forget. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about why did you stick to this dancing, this physical thing, dancing, music, movement, emotions. Why did you choose for that?
I think it was always in my blood, the love for dancing. So already when I was a child, you know, I was dancing freely in the living room. Like I already did biodanza without knowing what biodanza is, but it's very simple. You just feel the music, you connect with your emotions, and you put your emotion into motion. Like it's already in the word emotion, there's already the motion. So it's like super connected. And even if we don't know this intellectually, our body knows that. Our body always expresses all the emotions that we feel. Like we know that when we're angry, we have a muscular tone and our eyes are wide open, and when we are sad, like we're crushing down, we're protecting ourselves. And then the dancing, I was always receiving a lot of joy when I was dancing, and also just when I was a teenager and I socially went out with my friends and I was on a dance floor. Whenever there was a music that I really, really liked, I felt like the music was entering my body and just expressing itself through my arms and my legs and just traveling through me. And then I realized also the people looking at me and then telling me like, wow, you're dancing really beautifully, like getting some feedback of other people. And this sensation of the purest expression of my soul is manifesting itself through the dance. And this was like driving me, and this was taking me. Like I had this at school when I was an outsider in my class, and I had my dancing group and also my theater group. And then and then it was really crazy when I learned tango, and how I could really embody it and feel it, and it was a new experience. So the answer is, dance is like the art form I managed to express myself in the most authentic way.
And that's important for you.
It's important for me. I have a big need of self-expression, and when I was also in the writing. I made it amongst many people from Switzerland, Germany, and Austria. I was one of the 7 selected people who made it into the most promising contemporary theater writers group for 2 years. And I felt so much under pressure with that. And it was such an intellectual frame that I felt like everything I said is like looked at really, really critically. So I was like shutting down over time. And I felt very, very restricted. And for me, dance is the absolute opposite. It's the total freedom. And the dance that I like. I'm not talking about ballet. I'm not talking about cha-cha-cha. I'm talking about like really feeling the music.
Now you're talking about how you experience it, but I can imagine that you also teach other people how to learn from you, also in this self-expression by dancing. How important is that for you, that you can also give the joy of dance, the self-expression to your clients?
That's everything. That's everything I want and that I need. Like, I feel also the need to transmit. I feel like, hey, I discovered this in my life. I want you to have it too, because it's the best thing. It's like, I don't know, you go to a new restaurant, it's like, wow, that just blows my mind. You want to invite your friends to come. The next time we go together, I want to share this with you. And yeah, that's in our nature as humans, that we want to share what we love most with the people we love, so they can enjoy it too.